This is our ranking of every episode of Season 23, including the Hulu exclusive holiday specials. Starting off in last place is Drunk with Power, where Peter and Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh swap places. So Peter's boss announces that the brewery is going to start giving out tours.
And Peter, I've chosen you for the job.
That's great!
Makes sense, as Peter's an expert on beer. Not on how it's made or the finer intricacies of it, but on the most important part, drinking it.
You can get a little closer, gang. I don't bite. Ow! Too close!
But things just get better as a special VIP wants a private tour from Peter. A fellow beer aficionado? How exciting!
Woo! I love beer!
That's him now.
Oh, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Astronomically less exciting. But not for Peter, as he's finally found someone who loves beer just as much as him.
We got to experience what it's like to be beer.
And we drank our own pee in the can.
Nope, that's still the beer. Don't worry, people confuse the taste of beer and urine all the time. So these two drunks drink the brewery dry, and when they finally wake up, Brett decides this is the kind of life he wants to keep living.
I don't want my life anymore. You take it. Brett.
Didn't realize it was that easy to secure a lifelong position like a Supreme Court justice. I knew there was some upside to immeasurably damaging your liver. So Peter slides into his new role as justice, with seemingly no one realizing that he's not the real Kavanaugh.
Toots, coffee?
Stick it, Brett.
Although I don't doubt that this is usually how these conversations go with them. They know how annoying Brett is, and it seems like the rest of the world is about to find that out too.
3 beers.
Sorry, can't. We're all out.
What? How's that possible?
The Cav drank it all.
The Cav kinda sounds like some mischievous devil from D&D, and honestly, I don't think that's too far off a descriptor.
Sup? I'm the Cav. Mind if I sit down?
Kind of.
But the guys realize Brett isn't too far off from Peter. Loud-mouthed, often drunk, and always down for some tomfoolery.
Guys, we gotta party together. This weekend? Squeeze Mom's beach house?
I don't know who Squee is, but saying you're gonna party at anyone's mom's house while in your 40s should be a criminal offense. Maybe Peter can pass that while he's in the Supreme Court. But it turns out, Peter does have a big decision to make while he's still a judge.
All right, Brett, we're deadlocked 4-4. Are you going to vote to repeal gay marriage or not?
Repeal is a funny word. Doesn't it make sense that you can't repeal something that's already been peeled? Like you can't repeal a banana. See, this lukewarm stream of consciousness is why I'm not cut out for politics.
We must not only ban gay marriage, we have to ban straight marriage.
Finally, a truly radical change to the norm. We're so close to banning people from listening to loud music in public without headphones. I can just feel it.
Imagine you can't forget your anniversary. Imagine it's illegal to have in-laws.
And that seems to be enough to sway the other justices who agree to make marriage illegal.
We did it, guys! We changed the way everything works without asking anyone, just like America wants!
Elsewhere, marriage is the last thing on the guys' minds as they attend a wet t-shirt contest at the beach house, and Brett gets a little heated about who wins.
It's a wet t-shirt contest, and Amber's shirt was the wettest!
Can't stand these regulations handbook kind of guys. Who cares if my cornhole boards aren't 27 feet apart? I'm just trying to pass some sacks.
Wet t-shirt contests have rules! That's all that separates us from animals!
Well, that and humans don't clean themselves by licking. But if they could reach some of those spots, I bet you they would. And all this talk about rules reminds Brett of where he needs to be. Making rules for everyone else.
That's not Brett Kavanaugh! I am!
Yeah, I think anyone with at least one good eye could probably see that. Maybe having people so old that they can't see things in such a high point of power should be discussed more.
Let's get back to banning only gay marriage like the founding fathers intended.
But Peter's learned a thing or two on Capitol Hill, and he manages to convince them to not do that by expressing how marriage has taken away a lot of his freedoms.
You want to take away their freedom? Let them get married.
There's probably 100 more reasons you could have come up with that are less depressing, but good on you, I guess. This is easily the weakest of the season, with its commentary of the Supreme Court not really being poignant or all that funny. The caricature of Brett Kavanaugh feels super late and outdated while lacking the nuance that other parodies of political figures had in the show's past. God help us for what commentaries on the current state of politics they have cooking up for next season. And the current state of Hulu shows is up next, with 3 different shows being parodied in a real Who's Hulu. So the episode starts with a parody of Only Murders in the Building, where a guy named Jeffrey Dahmer is having a little fun. Any relation to that other Jeffrey Dahmer, I wonder?
No, this isn't a dark Netflix show, alright?
Sorry, but I am a modern male and I need bloodshed now. But this show is more about the 3 neighbors who solve an apartment murder.
My goodness, what happened here?
Sorry, folks, there was an only murder in this building.
Sounds like the perfect topic for a new podcast. It's what the victim's family would have wanted, but maybe they can solve the murder through their show.
Yeah, I thought I could speak way too close to the microphone with a very wet mouth.
Yeah, this may not be a job for podcasters as it turns out. Still, they decide to ask around, including apparent pizza sauce enthusiast Jeffrey Dahmer.
You haven't heard anything about Tim's murder, have you?
What? Tim's dead?
See, he didn't even hear about it, so how could he have done it? You know who probably did it? That neighbor who won't shut up about wanting to see justice served.
You're making a mistake. The murderer is obviously Jeffrey Dahmer, and he'll kill again.
Well, a maybe murderer is being put behind bars. Let's see Joe Rogan do that. This calls for a celebratory ride around downtown with suspiciously fizzy drinks.
Here's to a murder well solved.
Some people are such lightweights. Next up is The Dropout, which follows a wide-eyed woman developing the latest breakthrough in healthcare.
With just one drop of blood, my device can tell you if you're a Samantha, a Miranda, or even Magda.
Doing a BuzzFeed quiz already feels like drawing blood, so this doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. Unless I get anyone other than Charlotte, then I want my blood back. But unfortunately, her idea suffers from corporate meddling.
Also, we're pivoting away from Sex in the City and doing Sopranos characters instead.
What?
Okay, I like that one better. Crossing my fingers I get the gabagool. Show me gabagool, baby!
We just need to get to the next round of funding. The machine doesn't have to really work, they just have to think it works.
So they're gonna fake it till they make it. The problem with that is that you do have to make it sometime in between faking it.
Oh my god, we've been faking the results this whole time!
Well, the company had a good run. At least she shows some promise for one of the most lucrative careers, online grifting. She'll be selling supplements on Kick before we know it. And finally, we have The Bear, a show so good that it seems like no one on the writing staff has seen it.
Sure is weird being back in the old family restaurant here in Detroit.
Chicago.
But what they do know is the show's about quick cuts, high-intensity kitchens, and being as Chicagoan as you can be.
You can tell I'm good at chefing because of all the quick edits and loud music.
So the kitchen works to transform the restaurant into a fine dining experience before it's visited by the top food critic in Chicago.
Anyone who gets a bad review from him is executed, Chicago style.
Not super sure on what that all entails, but I have to imagine the caskets are deep dish style, right? The critic eventually arrives and has bigger worries, like trying to figure out what the heck this show is about.
Okay, time out. What is The Bear? Is this restaurant The Bear? Am I The Bear?
Look, I was just hoping to learn how to make a sick beef sandwich. I can't be doing all this deep thinking. This is more or less your standard Family Guy TV parody episode, briefly dashing over each show with just a few jabs and references while not feeling wholly complete. This kinda just felt like a layup since they didn't have to worry about writing an actual story, but even then, each story lacks a satisfying conclusion. Parodying a whole show in 10 minutes is not easy, and it might be time the show stops trying to do it. But Peter wouldn't stop until he made Joe laugh in Live, Laugh, Love, where Lois also tried to help Principal Shepard find his long-lost love. So the kids are going on a field trip to Washington, D.C., but Lois is worried about their supervision.
Relax, Mom. We're being supervised by public school employees who themselves are battling their own crippling addictions.
Oh, well that's good. After all, if you want to relate to the kids, you gotta meet them on their level. But the real addiction kids are dealing with is being on their phones. And pause for laughter. But unfortunately for Meg and Chris, this helicopter parent is about to touch down.
I've got 2 packs and a very healthy colon.
Our chaperone is Mom?
There is nary a more brutal death than death by parental inflicted embarrassment. May God make your suffering swift. Meanwhile, Peter's making a startling realization about Joe and his lack of ha-ha text reactions.
Oh my god, he's literally never given me one! Joe doesn't think I'm funny?
You can't always read into text though. You think I'm always laughing out loud when I send LOL? I learned my lesson after I LMAO'd a few years back. It fell off, and I never saw it again. So rather than accept the label of unfunny, Peter decides to confront Joe on this.
Tell me, what is it?
Honestly, nothing. I just don't always think you're all that funny.
Oh.
I'm sorry, but last I checked, this show wasn't called Family Joe, it's called Family Peter. So Peter isn't Joe's cup of comedy tea.
I tell you what, I'm gonna get a laugh from him.
And Lois is busy trying to get a laugh out of the teens at the same time, but they're giving her the Joe treatment.
Why is everyone leaving?
'Cause you're lame and we don't want to be with you.
It takes some true skill to ruin a good hot tubbing. Sitting in your own reheated filth is one thing, but a cringe adult? That's where we draw the line. So Lois decides to wallow with Principal Shepard, who's having his own middle-aged slump.
I'm sure there's someone special in your life.
You know, there was someone.
I thought he and Lois could bond over being lame adults, but of course, he has to steer the conversation to being all about him. He basically tells her of a past love that slipped away from him after a fight that he still regrets to this day.
That one argument consumed us. Never saw Shelley again.
So Lois does some digging, and she actually manages to track Shelley down.
Shelley Barnes! She lives only like 30 miles from here.
You're talking like 30 miles is just a hop, skip, jump, slide to the right of here. If the love of your life is more than 2 McDonald's away from you, it's too far. Elsewhere, Peter's looking to put his plan to win over Joe into action.
I'm gonna send a funny text and then sneak over to Joe's and ha-ha it.
So is Joe supposed to think that he laughed at it? I think Peter's plan hinges completely on Joe being a colossal idiot. Which, okay, he may not be that far off. But when Peter tries to make his way through Joe's web of pulleys, he ends up getting caught like a tasty fly.
Don't struggle, it only makes it tighter.
Now's not the time to be flirting with the home invader, Joe. But unfortunately for Peter, his greatest enemy does him in. The stairs. But Joe must feel a little bad about all this because he throws Peter a freebie while he recovers. Let's just ignore that it's totally a pity laugh, which is the worst kind of laugh aside from the one that makes you poop yourself. And finally, Principal Shepard gets over his worries and decides to pay his ex a visit.
No way. John Shepard, is that really you?
It is.
Okay, so maybe Shepard isn't finding love today, but he does walk away with one victory, knowing there's someone out there who has it worse than him. Not a great victory, but when you're living in your car, you gotta take what you can get. Ironically, an episode about how funny Peter is didn't turn out to be all that funny. The writing and conflict ended up being fairly weak, though moments like Joe's web did get a chuckle out of us. Principal Shepard's story feels more complete, but it's a Principal Shepard story, so not the most entertaining side character to follow to begin with. Maybe they gotta stop trying to make that guy happen. It's never going to happen. But Lois would try to make changing famous books happen in Fahrenheit 451, leading to Brian becoming a right-wing icon while the guys accidentally keep drunkenly marrying themselves. So Brian's reading Stewie a bedtime story, but he finds that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is very different from how he remembers it.
The Gobstoppers are vegan? After falling in the chocolate river, Augustus Gloop apologizes for doing blackface?
How dare they? Nobody touches my favorite eccentric psychotic slave laborer. Turns out this was all Lois is doing.
This was a local chapter of my board suburban mom group. It's called Mothers Invested in Literary Fiction.
And yes, that is the acronym you're thinking of. Apparently it's their goal to update all books to be more socially conscious of today's world.
What you're doing is offensive to me as an author.
Self-published author.
Even that's being generous. Guy who has written words once or twice is probably more apt. Meanwhile, the guys crash a high school party with Joe, but are shocked to find how lame kids' parties are now.
Wait, let's not break it up. Let's wake it up.
I see Peter's doing his due diligence as an older American citizen by supplying kids with booze. Like the clownfish and the anemone, it's one of the oldest symbiotic relationships in nature. So the guys party hard with the youths, but when the sun comes up, they end up suffering for it beyond just the usual hangover.
Why are we wearing tuxedos?
Uh-oh, apparently we got married last night.
Honestly, I recommend getting married to the homies at least once just to reap the benefits of that sweet, sweet wedding registry.
Thank God we're doing this divorce before Donna finds out.
You know what this calls for? A post-divorce bender.
We got married again.
I can't believe it. Why does this keep happening to us?
Guys, don't you see? It's the alcohol.
I thought this day would never come. I sooner thought the sun would expand and envelop the entire solar system in a fiery death before the guys made this decision.
We need to stop drinking.
Elsewhere, Brian is trying to protest the editing of classic books.
Hey, Brian, I'm a news producer, and our team loves how outspoken you've been about literary freedom.
So Brian agrees to come on and talk about his passion for freedom. It's just too bad he didn't figure out which news station it was first. Hey, Brian's favorite. This is going to be another episode where Brian gets his politics in a twist, isn't it?
But you stood up to the vermin in Chicago and said, "No bueno, Comrade Obama."
What?
Yeah, this is just what listening to the news is like nowadays. Makes you think you're having a stroke every time you watch. Meanwhile, the guys are giving sober life a try, which mostly requires well-gelled hair and puffy vests.
Isn't this awesome? What could be more fun than puzzling with my boys?
I actually have quite a list, and don't worry, there are some options that don't include jamming a pencil in my eye until I only see red. But sobriety has made them realize that outside of drinking, they all don't seem to have anything in common.
We make no sense together. I hate to say it, but I don't think we're cut out to be friends.
Usually drinking is what destroys friendships, but I guess it was all that was keeping them together. I guess they should have seen the signs when they all didn't share hobbies like turning off their body cams and not being allowed within 500 feet of a school. But at least Brian's getting some good news as his book Faster Than the Speed of Love is making a comeback.
Oh, my book is being co-opted by the right. It's gross. And it's selling. It's number 2 on the neo-Nazi bestseller list.
So Brian decides to use his newfound notoriety to talk about his book at a very red-hatted gathering.
I can't believe you're selling out like this. I'm not selling out. I'm presenting my art in its rawest form.
Yeah, but there's a reason why we cook raw things, Brian. But if you're okay with contracting parasites, then who are we to stop you?
Cut his mic! We don't want to hear your racist book.
We do. Let him read his racist book.
Weird. I don't remember his book being racist. But I also didn't read it, didn't read the plot synopsis, or even look at the cover, so thanks for the heads up. So this gives Brian a lot of fuel to fire at both sides.
You wimps want to edit any book that hurts your precious feelings, and you freaks just want to ban books altogether.
Valid reasons to be angry, but at least there's one thing both sides can agree on. Brian's book sucks once you actually read it.
You have brought us together, Brian Griffin. We've both agreed to ban just one book. Yours.
It's for the good of the general public, like when we banned lead paint. And back at home, Peter's family holds a reverse intervention to get him drinking again. Apparently, he's a lot more tolerable as an alcoholic.
I can't handle this right now. I need to hydrate. Just a little agua to take the edge off.
No.
Can't you be hydrated and a heavy drinker? No? Just one? Well, if you gotta choose.
Let's go get tanked. Together.
This was kind of an episode of missed opportunities. The guys going sober was the strongest story idea, but it should have been the central plot so it could have been expanded upon more, maybe to dissect their deeper feelings for one another. Meanwhile, the Brian story lacks any actual critique of modern politics, failing to say anything worthwhile on the issues other than the most obvious. Plus, Lois plays such a big role in the beginning, only to completely disappear later on, which just kind of feels incomplete. Fun on one hand, but underwhelming on the other. And Brian would try to give Chris a hand with his pants problem by using time travel and Hard Times at Adam West High, even though it had face-melting consequences. So Chris has a bit of an issue at school.
I had to give an oral book report in front of my English class, but it was right when I was at full mast.
So he was just honoring his country. What's wrong with that? Oh, he's not talking about a flagpole, is he? Well, the only reasonable thing to do after that is pack up and leave town, but Brian has a better idea.
Stewie and I built a time machine.
You did? How?
Well, I was always really good at Legos.
Is that all you need to make a time machine? I knew there was a good reason so many adults were building Lego Death Stars.
Anyway, maybe you and I travel back in time to this morning and give you a do-over on your book report.
So it's time travel time, as Brian takes Chris to the beginning of the day for a do-over.
Welcome to 16 hours ago. So, how does it feel to be living in the past?
Buddy, I'm living in the past even without a time machine. I'm not giving up my BlackBerry until it shuts down, which will be never. But elsewhere in our much lower stakes B-plot, the guys decide to go in on a scratch-off ticket without Peter.
I'm a winner!
Awesome! We won $123. Split 3 ways, that's $41 a piece.
I can't wait to be middle-aged and have this be the highlight of my year. But some clams have a lifespan of 500 years, so I might be waiting a while. So the guys spend their winnings on only the finer things.
Thanks to those lucky scratchers I just bought Now That's What I Call Music, Volume 12.
Hey, I remember those. Those were what we called music. Too bad Peter didn't buy into the winning scratcher.
Right. Seems like everybody's really enjoying their big winnings.
Well, it's not life-changing money, but $41 might just change my weekend. That's enough for one single Five Guys burger meal. And at school, Brian is ready to save Chris's reputation.
We just have to head off your past self so you can give the book report instead.
He should probably explain to Chris that head off doesn't mean what he thinks it means, just so we don't have another moment in the halls. Luckily, Chris's past self is pretty accepting of the idea.
I'm 100% fine with whatever this is. I just go where I'm told.
I'm sure Herbert would love to hear that. But now Chris can absolutely nail his book report.
Chris, I may have to fail you.
Well, that's all good, because the only chub in town is the insurance company.
Thankfully, his high school reputation is saved, which is way more important than grades. Bold coming from a YouTuber, I know. Meanwhile, Peter's jealous of his friend's newfound wealth, so he decides to steal some tickets so he too can be $41 richer.
Peter, it's the middle of the night. What the hell are you doing?
Having an affair?
Somehow less reprehensible than obsessing over scratch-off tickets. Too bad the police don't feel the same way.
The store security camera caught you checking your height against the door jam sticker.
I'm afraid I'm shrinking.
Well, if he had won the lottery, he could have gotten that height enhancement surgery. Finally, no more living life at a tiny 5'11" and joining the land of the giants at 6 feet. And as Chris and Brian return to the present, they find that their time meddling did have one casualty.
Trust me, there's nothing to worry about. You sure about that?
Based on that look, you'd think the world fell into a nuclear apocalypse and Meg became a ghoul like in Fallout. But nah, it was actually just a very convenient butterfly effect.
So with no noise coming from Chris's classroom, Meg never turned her head away, ensuring that her face would absorb the full brunt of the explosion.
Okay, to be fair, that's what happens when you hover your face over bubbling chemicals. Couldn't even get a cool look like Two-Face. Now you're just face. So they decide to head back in time and undo everything. A very loving move from her brother, as long as you don't think about what Chris is having to do.
Oh, you kind of sexy liar. I'm ready.
And so Chris's self-sabotage ends up saving Meg's good looks. Well, good compared to what could have been.
What's everyone laughing about?
Well, there are some things worth laughing over in this episode, but honestly, not much. We do like a good time travel episode, and throwing Chris into the mix is a welcome change, but the story just didn't do all it could with the setup. The side plot with Peter is mostly nothing, which continues a trend throughout this season of B-plots feeling half-baked and used to fill up time. But Lois started cooking up a life change after discovering self-pleasure in Cool Hand Lois, where she ends up leaving Peter for Bonnie. So Peter and Lois are at a fundraising auction at the high school where Lois is trying to win a romantic vacation for two.
$250.
$250 from a slightly less attractive woman.
Dang, why's he gotta do her like that? I wouldn't say Principal Shepard of all people has any room to talk about looks, but it's money that talks here.
$500.
$500 from Sydney Sweeney's twin sister.
That's the beauty of auctions. You overpay for something you could have gotten for half, but you get to wave a little paddle around, so it's all good. Too bad Peter isn't exactly interested in that vacation.
What weekend should we go?
Where's that now?
To the bed and breakfast.
Oh, no way I'm doing that.
I guess Peter just enjoys flushing money down the toilet. I'll be honest, I get it. Those Ninja Turtles in the sewers need all the donations they can get. But that's okay, Lois. Think happy thoughts.
When did you get a souvenir of the Washington Monument?
Mom, get out!
Oh my God!
Yeah, the happiest thought she could have now is diving headfirst out the window. At least she knows that a woman would never do that.
Everyone knows women don't pleasure themselves.
You seriously think that?
Honestly, that would explain a lot. It's too bad you didn't see our Times Meg Griffin Was Almost Happy video. It had just the right sponsor in there that you guys were very excited for. So, at the recommendation of Meg, Lois tries a little self-discovery, and I think she likes it.
Jimmy Connors.
Jimmy Connors.
Does every woman think about Jimmy Connors? Not saying I disagree, just trying to build a consensus here. So that little habit has given Lois a new view on life.
I choose to take care of myself, and if people aren't satisfied with that, then they can take care of themselves too.
Good for you, Lois. I hope you're washing your hands extra frequently, but good for you, Lois. And just like a teen going through puberty, Lois can't help but be aroused by anything and everything she comes across.
And here's one with a calendar updating his schedule.
Oh, same word pronounced different.
When you're this deep in the hormonal trenches, it really doesn't take much. Now I see where Chris got it from. And while Lois is picking up some doodads and doohickeys for herself, she actually ends up running into Bonnie.
Oh, I've been coming for years.
Really? Well, I thought this place just opened.
Yes.
Who would have thought most women enjoy feeling satisfied? I know, first I'm hearing of that too. So Lois likes feeling good, Bonnie likes feeling good, the dots are all starting to connect here.
I'm dating Bonnie now.
Hello.
An announcement that makes Brian's head explode and Chris shoot off like a rocket. Is that a progressive reaction? I'm honestly not sure. So this has Peter and Joe in a weird predicament, leaving them to point fingers at one another while their wives do the same with each other. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, hits you over the head with a hammer.
If you had just pleased your wife, none of this would be happening.
You hate to see two pots calling each other black. The kettle can't even get a word in. So Lois plans to go on that couple's vacation with Bonnie, but Peter doesn't want to let her.
Peter, I am going on this vacation, unless you are trying to tell your wife she can't live her truth.
Well, to quote that one movie where people yell at each other in a courtroom, he is unable to even comprehend what is factual. But heaven forbid Peter be labeled a C-U-C-K, even if it means one of his greatest fantasies is coming true.
You can still fight for your marriage. You're allowed to tell your wife that you care about her.
Well, that's news to Peter. They should really include that in those wedding vows. But when Peter and Jo track their wives down at a romantic dinner, they make a startling realization.
They do look really happy.
Yeah. Lois hasn't looked that happy with me in years.
Are we saying that Lois being away from Peter is the key to her happiness? Well, I've been saying it for years. But fine, two can play at this game. How about they give their wives a taste of their own medicine?
Well, now we have a problem and a secret.
And two eyeballs that desperately need bleaching. And the episode kinda just ends? Like, Lois returns home anyway with no real good reason other than she needs to be. To be honest, we kinda enjoyed this episode, but the way it wraps up is really lazy and doesn't even try to make sense of Peter and Lois being together. This probably would have been a lot higher without that ending, but the show seems pretty set on reminding us that Peter and Lois are doomed together. And Brian would doom literary history when he brings Mark Twain to the future to be corrupted in Twain's world. So Brian's taking a novel writing course, and it takes only a few minutes for the teacher to realize the level of talent he's working with here.
What about the boy with the dragon tattoo?
Somehow less inspired than the dragon with the girl tattoo. Yes, that is a real book, and there's something about that dragon's smile that makes me never want to read it.
What am I missing? How did all these great writers from the past get their ideas?
Well, back then, with no TV and no internet, you either wrote or you bashed your head in with a rock. Have you tried giving the latter a try, Brian? Luckily, Stewie has an idea on how to help him.
How about I take you back in the time machine? We meet some of the greats, and they can help get your writing on track.
And so they do just that, time hopping to visit writers including the Apostle Luke, Charles Dickens, and Ernest Hemingway. If only they were a few minutes earlier, they could have learned the secrets of his greatest creation, the Hemingway daiquiri. And they decide to cap off the trip by meeting the greatest humorist of the late 1800s, Mark Twain.
Never put off till tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow.
So good.
You just know Twain would have loved Minions memes if he were alive today. But the future actually sounds pretty tempting to him.
I'd love to see the future, and it'll give me a chance to proofread my new novel, The Adventures of Hankenberry Flan.
Hankenberry Flan kinda sounds like one of those weird holiday desserts that someone makes but no one ever touches. So they both decide to tag team a book, but can't seem to land on what the book should be about.
Maybe something about a murdered woman.
Why would anyone care if a woman died?
Look, he's a product of his time and he don't have internet. So Brian and Stewie decide to catch him up on all 150 years of human history after his time.
My goodness gracious. Wow. So can you tell me about that flesh flashlight again?
Only focusing on the most influential achievements in modern history, I see. And it turns out that corner of the modern day is all Mr. Twain really seems to take interest in.
Some of these women are powerful attractive.
What women?
On this hub.
Yeah, I think I can gather which one. Unfortunately for those of you in the UK, they're gonna need to see some ID if you want to find out what he's talking about. So after being in the modern world for a day, Twain only has one takeaway.
The only thing that matters in this world is it makes everyone feel alive.
Which then quickly turns into a feeling of self-loathing and dehydration. This sweet summer child doesn't understand the risks yet.
I want to see it all. A woman with a man with a
You know, just some regular old coffee shop style conversation going on here. So Twain deduces that books are stupid and that the only thing that matters in this life is deviancy.
I want to be.
Mark, buddy, you are really giving the editors overtime here. So without Mark Twain around to write his masterpiece, that leaves room open for someone else to take on the challenge.
He left the manuscript for Huck Finn. I already handed it in to my professor. The quality is undeniable.
Here's the thing. That book is acceptable because of the context in which it was written. If you wrote it today, well, people will have some opinions.
You had a grown man traveling with and clearly grooming a young boy.
They were on an adventure.
Yeah, I'm sure judges have heard that excuse hundreds of times. So it turns out that historical context is important when analyzing a work of art. They really should have taught you that in school. But literature isn't the only world that's been ruined by this little debacle, as the adult film market has also taken a toll.
Every movie is now just people saying stupid Mark Twain quips.
Well, big win for those of you who watch that stuff for the plot. Congrats, all 10 of you. So Brian and Stewie travel to California to talk some sense into Twain, who's looking pretty worse for wear.
This industry chewed me up and spit me out.
I'd say it did a bit more than chewing and spitting. Thanks for proving that a BBL is not for everyone, though.
Anyone can make pornography, but only you can write your great books. Please, let us bring you home.
So Mark agrees and the world of literature is saved. Maybe. We don't really know. Did they have BBL reduction surgeries in 1870? It's not the funniest of the season, but it does have its moments with some Twainisms and Brian's stupidity. So while this isn't the deepest dissection of the importance of literature or our reactions to books that may be considered controversial, we do have to commend the episode for being one of the weirdest of the entire season. We'll take an unflinchingly bizarre and sometimes off-putting Family Guy episode over a boring one any day. And Peter's bizarre throwing ability would have him ridiculed in Pitch Imperfect, where Brian and Stewie also try to scam people through a chiropractic business. So while attending Quahog's Oktoberfest, Brian and Stewie come across a chiropractor's tent.
Whoa, that feels great.
Yeah, that good feeling will last right until you get into your car.
But when he sees the bill for that is $700, Brian probably starts wishing that neck snap was enough to kill him.
Do you see how much that chiropractor charged? I could do the same thing he did.
You could, and that's not a compliment.
Sounds like the perfect business opportunity. But that can wait. First, we need to see Peter and what little respect Lois still had for him.
Peter, win me a toy.
What? Why?
'Cause I'm New England lady drunk.
You know what that means, Peter. Do this for her and she'll let you do that thing you like. You know what I'm talking about. 10 p.m. bedtime on a weeknight. Well, the plus side to this is that while he's sleeping on the couch, he can have any bedtime he wants.
Chris, move. You're sitting in my spot.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be sitting wherever I want from now on, Chief.
So that little limp-wristed display at the fair has erased any and all respect the family had for Peter. It was just crumbs before, but now there's genuinely nothing.
I told people you were a good fat, like an avocado. Now I don't know what you are.
I'd say that's a good descriptor. He costs too much to deal with and he's too annoying to handle. And later on, Stewie and Brian make their own aptly named chiropractic business, even managing to rope Chris in.
Sitting's the silent killer.
No, I stand quite often.
And that's your problem right there. Standing's the silent killer.
Seriously, they could not have picked a better name for this place than BS Chiropractics. But you might be wondering, if it's this easy to pull off, why isn't everyone doing it?
What the hell? Chris opened his own office?
Well, they are. Or at least Chris is. He jumped from trying to adjust the back to full-on stabbing it. And when even Peter's friends no longer respect him, Peter feels the need to explain why he throws like one of Al Harrington's wacky waving inflatable arm-flailing tube men.
My only friends were day raccoons, who are the most social of all raccoons. They're the ones who taught me how to throw.
I'd say that explains everything, but honestly, I just have more questions now. But you can't say this ordeal has been all bad because Peter ends up getting invited to throw the ceremonial pitch for a minor league baseball game.
You know he can't throw, right?
Yes, that's why we want him. Minor League Baseball needs gimmicks to attract fans.
Ah, so this will be like the Savannah Bananas, only Peter isn't in on the joke. People will be laughing at him, and the only yellow uniform he'll be wearing will come from him peeing himself from embarrassment. Peter wants to redeem himself, but won't be able to with his noodly arms.
I guess I'm always just gonna be one of those guys who throws like a girl.
You wish you threw like a girl.
Oh, heck yeah, this is a later season Meg, which means Peter gets the Meg that's really good at sports. So she decides to lend him a hand in teaching him how to use his hand.
So I was talking to Mom, and she told me that part of your problem might be performance anxiety.
Man, Peter's already dead in the ground and they're still finding ways to kick him. But Peter may just get some drive if he sees Cleveland and Lois doing it. Throwing a ball, I mean.
You wanna hop in, Pete?
No! He goes last when my mitts are loosest.
On second thought, the only throwing he might want to do now is himself into traffic. Elsewhere, Brian and Stewie decide to confront Chris about his jumping ship.
A lot of those people came to you with real problems and you just exploited them for money.
Yeah, that's the whole chiropractic model.
But this town ain't big enough for 2 chiropractors. I don't even think it's big enough for 1. Quahog may just not want chiropractors.
We've been asked to investigate your businesses for medical and insurance fraud.
And just like that, their dreams of scamming people out of their money are dashed. And I thought you could be anything in America. But now it's game day, which means it's time for Peter to either earn his respect back or just dig himself into an even deeper social grave.
So are you gonna give them what they want? Or are you gonna go out there and disappoint them?
I'm sure Meg knows that Peter can only disappoint people, and the only way to do that now is with a perfect throw.
C-Ride! Damn it!
Woo! He did it!
So Peter wins back the tiny amount of respect his friends and family had for him beforehand. The Peter story is pretty good, though we feel like they probably missed out on a commentary about how masculinity is often measured by how tough you are. Still, there are some decent bits in there to enjoy, but that Stewie and Brian side story is overall pretty forgettable. I'm straining to remember anything memorable about it, and now it feels like I need a chiropractor. But Gift of the White Guy is memorable for being the season's Christmas episode, where Peter has to retrieve something of Lois's that he gave away, and Stewie tries to do good only to end up vaporizing Meg. So Stewie's writing his letter to Santa, but Brian has to come in and hit the child with some sobering truths.
Stewie, you do a lot of things that aren't nice besides trying to kill your mom.
Yeah, he has gotten better, but there's still a bit of venom in that snake. I mean, he did try to kill Chris a few seasons ago.
Oh, this is bad. I need to turn this around before Christmas.
I think it's a little late in the game for that.
Nonsense. If I can do all my shopping the day before Christmas, Stewie can get himself off the naughty list. And just for the record, my family loves the discounted Halloween candy they get for Christmas every year. So Stewie decides to get rid of all of his weapons in the most responsible way he knows, just tossing them in the trash.
Are these guns from Rick and Morty?
Yeah, they had kind of a fire sale over there.
Oof, hopefully that was enough money to buy them some advertising, because what do you mean they just finished their 8th season and I'm just now hearing about it? Meanwhile, Peter's looking for any junk around the house he can bring for his work's White Elephant gift exchange.
Tiny cardboard box? That's perfect. There's something inside, even better.
Can you blame him? That's the true embodiment of the White Elephant spirit anyhow. Preston ends up picking the gift at the exchange, but it just so happens that the brooch holds a bit of importance. I did for a minute, but thanks for reopening old wounds. How could we ever forget you, my space princess? It turns out that the brooch we've never seen or heard of before is actually super important to Lois's lore.
That brooch gave me life. It's the most special possession I own.
Now that I think about it, keeping it a secret from Peter was probably the right move. It probably would have disappeared a lot sooner and gone towards paying for some wacky antics like, I don't know, dinosaur gene manipulation. Peter hopes to snag it from his boss, but hits a snag himself when he realizes Preston gave the brooch to his mother.
How the hell am I gonna get that thing back?
Don't worry, you'll get it. You always do.
Thanks, Holiday Psychosis Moose. Always a pleasure to see you after I drink NyQuil. And while Stewie has done his darndest to stay good, Meg ruins it when she finds one of Stewie's weapons in the trash.
Meg, that's not a toy!
Well, maybe Santa was on a bathroom break and missed that one. Sorry, Meg, but you belong in the dustbin now.
If Santa discovers this, there's no way I'll make the nice list.
Who cares about that? Meg's dead.
Yeah.
Later that night, the guys help Peter steal the brooch off of Preston's mom at the nursing home, but Lois later realizes that if the brooch helped her once, it's better off helping someone else.
Well, I gotta say, it feels pretty good doing something nice for a sweet old woman on Christmas.
If by something nice you mean puncturing an artery with a brooch, then yeah, you're just painting the walls and ceiling with all that niceness coming out of her chest. And on Christmas Eve night, Stewie realizes now there's only one thing he should be asking Santa for.
Santa, please! My only wish is for Meg to be returned safely. I don't need anything else this year.
Well, she's a pile of ash, so what the heck. Nothing a little tape and glue can't fix. And by Christmas morning, Meg is back and all better. Well, mostly.
Are her legs on backwards?
So this holiday episode is a little lopsided. We think a story about Stewie going good only to accidentally incinerate Meg and have to face the music is super solid and probably should have been the main story here. Peter's misadventure with the brooch isn't all that enjoyable or funny, kinda just weighing down the much more interesting plot happening alongside it. Still, that's a bloody funny ending, so we do have to give it props for that. And we also have to give props to Peter Pumpkin Cheater, the season's Halloween special, where Peter helps Joe win a pumpkin contest and Rupert tries to kill Brian after being brought to life. So Joe's growing a gigantic pumpkin for the local pumpkin contest, which is a lot more personal than it sounds.
Every year I enter Quahog's Great Pumpkin Halloween Contest and get creamed by that dang Patrick McCloskey.
And apparently there are rumors that this McCloskey guy used to do the same to Bonnie, but, in a different manner of speaking.
No, it's just the pumpkin thing.
Sure, whatever you say, Joe. Meanwhile, Brian and Stewie are having a quarrel over their couple's costume.
You look ridiculous, by the way.
How dare you! Rupert thinks I look amazing!
Yeah, but Rupert's just trying to protect your heart, Stewie. Brian has no issue with trampling all over it.
God, Brian's such a jerk. Have Rupert be sunny. You know what? Maybe I will.
Ooh, I love a little crime against nature right around the holidays. So after Joe's personality becomes a little too pumpkin obsessed, the guys decide to do something about it.
Hey, What if we hid Joe's pumpkin before it gets picked up for the fair tomorrow morning?
I'm way in.
Sounds risky, especially since he considers that thing his baby. Like, even more so than his actual baby.
Uh-oh. We wrecked Joe's pumpkin. And my sneakers.
Well, now that pumpkin is at least a good visual of what Joe's gonna do to their heads when he finds out. Meanwhile, Stewie does his best to bring Rupert to life, but comes up short.
It's not alive! It's not alive!
Who would have thought something made out of stuffing and thread would be so hard to put a pulse in? But as Stewie falls asleep, it turns out his experiment worked, and it's gonna have deadly consequences.
And now, to fulfill your wish, I must kill Brian.
He doesn't even have to do it for Stewie. Rupert owes it to Brian for all those times he's been torn apart and gone to town on. So morning rolls around, and Joe's taking the whole pumpkin thing well.
No, we can put it back together!
Easier said than done. If all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't figure it out, what makes you think 4 middle-aged alcoholics will be able to do it better?
This is crazy, but I think I could slide in through the hole in the bottom. Then I could just sit in there for a few hours and maybe you can still win the contest.
Finally, Peter's eating his way to an early grave has come in handy. And with Peter playing pumpkin, Joe's finally able to score a win over his greatest rival, who we just heard about a day ago.
Joe Swanson!
Better luck next year, McCloskey.
But now Joe's pumpkin is being shipped off for the state competition. Do you think Joe will get extra points if his pumpkin has a Peter-sized skeleton inside of it? Meanwhile, Stewie's ecstatic to learn of Rupert's new life, but less excited about the killing Brian thing.
Anyway, you don't have to kill him.
But you said no takesies backsies.
Dang, that is an airtight blood contract. But sometimes you really gotta takey-backy. Luckily, Stewie manages to track down Rupert before he can do away with Brian for good.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way.
There's something almost darkly somber about one scorned lover drowning another. But then I remembered this is happening in a dirty outhouse between a baby and a bear, and all artistic criticism kinda just goes out the window. And while Joe's pumpkin secret ends up getting exposed, at least he finds himself in good company.
No real pumpkin is ever over 20 pounds.
But yours always are.
My fat son sits in mine every year.
But wait, wasn't Joe's pumpkin legit until Peter broke it and tried to hide in it? Joe might just have the green thumb the pumpkin community needs. It's nice to see a guy whose life is mostly defined by his losses get a win.
I gotta put some thought to this, but I think I may be in love with that guy.
So this wasn't one of the strongest Halloween episodes the show had, but there are some bright spots to it. Stewie bringing Rupert to life is something we're surprised the show hadn't tackled sooner, but making the bear jealous of Brian and wanting to murder him definitely fits in with the holiday spirit. The Joe side plot is mostly just okay, though not even Glenn Powell possessed the power to make it more entertaining. Still, not a bad attempt with its Frank and Rupert side plot.